the fact that I took up something else other than what was conventional, that I'm 100%. Whether it would have been this path, I would have made it as tough for myself as I did, and that I'm not sure of. But I don't think there's anything in my life that brings me more joy than writing. I was trying to figure myself out because I realized that unless I do that, I will not be able to either one enjoy the writing or and two not get better at it. Right, I'll stay where I am, and I was making decent money, but it was not. Yes, of course, it was about earning more, but it was also about I'm not enjoying this. It's like a job, and if I'm not going to enjoy it, and yet I'm writing, I might as well take up a job and not enjoy it and make more money, right? So I was like, some kuch to gadbad hai. Okay, I'm like, fine, I want to read something new, find something new, kya kare? So there was a Bhagavad Gita session that was happening. I said, I would still consider myself an agnostic, right? To the extent that I'm always questioning. Then, we met up with a couple of friends and said, podcast should probably work better because a lot of people do not read. That turned into podcast. But the point is not that journey. And of course, we did 25 episodes and it was great fun, a lot of learning. But it all started with this curiosity, ki hai kya? This idea that I'm not, imposter syndrome. I'll get caught. I'm a fake. I'm not as good a writer. Like even today, someone said, that, oh, I've been given your name and they say you're a brilliant writer. And the first message I sent out was they're being too kind. And the second message I sent out was not always. I'm not always brilliant, right? So I constantly, kind of underplay, my abilities. And because I have this feeling that, I'm not really as good as what I think or what others.
Hi, and welcome to Soul Velocity. I am Snehal Singh, your host, and I'm excited to take you on this incredible journey where we tap into the wisdom of entrepreneurs, authors, and creative visionaries, people who are transforming the world in ways we cannot even imagine. As the name suggests, Soul Velocity is all about finding that pivotal direction for your soul, mind, and body. A place where deep, real conversations ignite the fire to keep you moving forward. Right now, I'm thrilled to bring you a special series called as Voices and Verses, 100 Authors and Countless Stories. This series is all about celebrating the writing world, connecting with authors, publishers, marketers, entrepreneurs, screenwriters, playwrights, and filmmakers who are shaping the stories that inspire us all. Through these conversations, my goal is to encourage aspiring writers, support seasoned authors, and spark new ideas that can inspire you to take you on your own creative journey to the next level. Whether you're here to learn, connect, or simply just enjoy some amazing stories, you are in the right place. Let's dive in together. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Soul Velocity. This is your host, Snehal Singh. We have been interacting with amazing authors, entrepreneurs, and some publishers as well to understand their journeys of establishing something or creating something and learning the craft of creation and knowing that we all are creators at the core of who we are. Today, we do have a special guest as well. His name is Saurin Desai, an adept writer of fantasy fiction, holds a deep affection for the genre, particularly revealing the magical elements as it encompasses. He also has, in a very beautiful way, I would say, an inquisitive mind, which has led him to explore various subjects with special fascination towards creativity. His recent endeavor was where he delved into profound impact of Bhagavad Gita on creativity and, exploration documented in just a beautiful narrative, which was concluded their first season very recently on their podcast as well. All the details about the podcast link is also mentioned in the details of this episode. However, he has an experience of over 2 decades in the realm of creating content, being creative, having his creative pursuits on extended boundaries of fiction, poetry, comics, where he showcases his diverse and multifaceted approach towards writing as well. So, of course, there is a lot more to him. So, I'm just going to jump right into the conversation and say, hi, Sorin, welcome, welcome, welcome. And this is just a platform for us to, get to know each other, talk, and, create value for our audience to a certain extent. So, let's begin with how did you move from being an engineer to what you're doing right now?
Okay. So first and foremost, thank you very much for this opportunity. It's always been a pleasure interacting with you, and I just love the personal touch and the warmth that you combine with the professionalism that you bring out. So it's always a pleasure. Yes. So we've all heard of midlife crisis and quarter life crisis, right? And so I had one of these crises before it was fashionable to have a crisis. Yeah. So I was in college. I'd studied a couple of years of technical even in my school and junior college. And by the time I got to my first year of engineering, which was in one of the best colleges in Mumbai, was Bombay then, I kind of figured out that I'm not going to be able to enjoy my life and keep doing this for the rest of my life, engineering. Yeah, it was unfortunate that I realized it after I had taken it up, and I did think about dropping out, but my family was not for it. They said just complete it, and maybe by the end of it, you might change your mind. If not, we'll see. I said okay, and I completed my engineering. But by the time I got to the end of the fourth year, I was clear. I sat with my family and I said, just give me some time to explore. They said, okay. So what I did was I had a job. I, and since I am into speculative fiction, I sometimes do wonder what if I had, taken up that job and I had even appeared for GMAT, etc. So what if I had gone abroad and done my MBA? So it's interesting. It's fun to just speculate about what that life would have been. Definitely, in a way unlikely that I would have this kind of way. But anyways, it just by coincidence, call it coincidence, call it luck. I just met up with someone who was running a radio jockey workshop. He liked my writing. He knew someone who was looking for a writer. I just landed up there, and that was what, about 20 plus years back. So it was just a series of coincidences that led me from quitting engineering to just getting into writing. Honestly, I had no plans to become a writer. I had no idea I could write.
I think, and that's where the inspiration comes from, right? Where I somehow don't believe in coincidences. I believe that everything is planned, and we go through a path of life where whatever is planned is going to happen anyways. But yes, thank you for sharing that journey. It's been over 2 decades in content writing. Content writing is pretty much famous now, is how I would say it, because earlier these kind of profiles were not even highly spoken about. They were pretty much in
Sure.
the background. It was something that was taken for granted, and we only looked at the product that was seen. Okay, so if we have
Sure.
to go like a decade ago, what did it feel like being in the field in which you were pretty much in the background for many things?
Fair. So I completely, understand and agree with what you have to say. But for me, as a writer, I yes, I did have these scripts and complaints about not getting recognition, not getting my due, etc. But on the other side, if you would ask me, would I go through the same? If I had a choice, when I was 20, would I take the same path, or would I, stick to the convention? I would definitely not stick to the convention, right? So the fact that I took up something else other than what was conventional, that I'm 100%. Whether it would have been this path, I would have made it as tough for myself as I did, and that I'm not sure of. But I don't think there's anything in my life that brings me more joy than writing. Yeah. And I've thought a lot about this very deeply in terms of, is it the writing, or is it the appreciation that I get after the writing, or is it the money, etc., etc. And after a lot of thinking, I've come to the conclusion it is the just this phase. It's tough. I hate myself. I hate everyone around me. I do not enjoy the writing process, right? But after it's done, once it's out, not in the world, but on the laptop or on the paper, and I see it, uh, the joy it brings me, just seeing something that's created out of nothing, so to say, right? There's no material other than the universe through me onto paper, or the universe through me onto my digital this. That feels amazing. It feels like I'm a flute, right? And the universe is just blowing through that flute. Uh, there's nothing, right? The flute is nothing. There is nothing inside the flute. It's empty. But breath through one side, music through another side. And that's, I feel like the flute, that the universe is just blowing through me, and what comes out are those words, and that brings me great joy.
Very beautifully put, Sorin. And I think someone who has been there, done that, can actually say that, because when you're communicating with new writers, new authors, one of the biggest questions each one of them has is, why am I really writing? Is it because I really, really love writing? Is it because I want to share and, have that fame or identity, or, be that subject matter expert? Or is it about the money? And most often, we realize that many of them don't know what their why is, what actually is the reason behind why they want to actually write, why they want to actually share. And the way you put it across is so beautiful. So I believe in being a hollow bone as well. And my concept, pretty much, in alignment with being a flute, is being that hollow bone where you understand that you're just being a medium through which the work has been done, and you're creating something out of nothing. While there is no nothing, there is still something, and that is interesting as well. So thank you
But
for
just
such.
just just to add to this, it does not at any point mean that there is, writing should only be done for the sake of writing. Like, because I have had multiple conversations with writers, young, old, more experienced, less experienced, and every reason is valid, as long as the only thing I request anyone who's listening and watching this is, uh, you know the writing process, every single part of it may not be joyful. It may be, for many people it is, it may not be, that's fine. But ultimately, if you're on the less prudent path on something like writing, ensure that you also enjoy some part of the path, right? It cannot just be the end result. And that's important. The money is important, the fame is important, acclaim, all of that, recognition, all of that is important. But if I'm just focused on that, and I'm not enjoying even one part of this, then it becomes, either it'll become very it'll become very uh, plastic, so to say, where it'll become like very system driven, where I'm just churning out stuff without really having being attached to my my soul to it, or it'll burn me out. Yeah. So everyone will find their own way. The trick is to just keep going until you find it and not give up.
Absolutely. I'm loving the way there are so many pieces that are there in just this much that you said. One definitely is, and I'm just reiterating, guys, for anyone who may have just missed out on anything, knowing your why, of why am I doing it, and at the same time also understanding that it's a journey. Some parts of it I may like, some part of it I may not like. However, what am I really focused on? And finding that piece that actually gives you joy is what will keep you going and keep you showing up repeatedly for the act of writing, or through writing doing whatever work you want to do. Because it's both ways. There is an entire world, who only believes in journaling and never sharing it with the world. Then there is an entire world who only believes in using writing as a therapy, which is just a venting out part and then burn it out, never read it again. And then there is a part of the world who loves to express in various ways, whether it is fiction, non-fiction, poetry, or any other format, okay, or even stand-up comedy for that matter. Today has become such a huge I wouldn't say market, but the love for it has grown. Earlier, that wasn't there, especially in India as well. We as Indians don't really have that humor bone as much as the rest of the
True.
world does have, and that is getting generated now as well. So, Sorin, again, you have been in this field for a longer period of time. Somewhere do help individuals in their journeys of writing or initiating their journeys. So, how does that work? You know, do you work with writers? Do you work with somebody new? How does that work?
Okay, so the way this began was a couple of years back. I think 2015 or 16. I was kind of lost in terms of what I wanted to do as a writer, and so I had been reading a lot of these self-help books, but also these writing craft books, just to understand, is there something I'm missing? Why am I not enjoying the process anymore? Why am I stagnating? Um, I was trying to figure myself out because I realized that unless I do that, I will not be able to either one enjoy the writing or and two not get better at it. Right? I'll stay where I am. And I was making decent money, but it was not. Yes, of course, it was about earning more, but it was also about I'm not enjoying this. It's like a job, and if I'm not going to enjoy it, and yet I'm writing, I might as well take up a job and not enjoy it and make more money, right? So I was like, kuch to gadbad hai, something is amiss. So I was reading up a lot, and in the process, what I figured out was that the best way for me to learn uh, and kind of understand, assimilate, and use it is by teaching others. Yeah, and that happened by trial and error. Someone came to me. They said, "You've been writing for 13, 14 years. Can you teach me?" I said, "I don't know how to teach. I'm not a teacher." Uh, they said, "Whatever just share." And now I'm like, okay, if I've agreed to it, I might as well prepare, right? And when I started to prepare, what I did was I said I'll make notes. So I started making notes, and by the end of it, I was like, what am I doing? I'll just maybe just hand over the notes to them and say, "Pad lo." But that's not going to help them. There are books. I can, so many books available. So this is not working. What do I do? What do I do? And then, it just struck me that all I need to do is first understand what is it that, they're looking to do rather than just dumping everything onto them. I said, Karna kya hai? So I called this person up and said, what do you want to do? Why do you want to be a writer? They said, everyone is who I know around me is writing online because by the time 2015, blogging, all of that was very popular. So I said, yeah, sure, but why do you want to write? Because everyone else is writing, so I also want to write. I said, do you want to become a writer? He's like, no, I know so many people who are not really writers. They're travelers, but they all write. They write blogs, they write this. They're not writing as professional writers, but they're writing. So I also want to write. I said, first of all, then I realized that this is not going anywhere. So I said, if he's not getting it, it means I'm not being able to get through to him. It's not his fault. So that process of figuring out why was I not being able to, as a writer, as a creative, as a person who expresses, I was not being able to, reach out to this person in a simple conversation. And that kind of started my journey of, okay, how do I get through to someone in a conversation? And I started, figuring this out, and I started enjoying this entire process of, okay, I have something here that I've learned over the years. I need to bring that across to the other person. And it was tough initially. It was very tough getting through to the other person in a format. I tend to intellectualize. I tend to complicate things. And you'll see the other person kind of glazed over, like, समझा हाँ समझा कुछ नहीं समझा. So I said, no, just not. And that, it was tough, but it was also fun because, I had not been challenging myself in a long time. And this kind of started pushing at, various points, my ego and various things. Arey, you can't do this much. There's so many people who teach. You can't teach something you've done for 15 years. Shame on you, all of that. And that entire process just got me, excited to engage with writing again, right? So a lot of people tell me, oh, because of me, they've started to write, they've published this, that. I say, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for myself. I'm being selfish. because the more I need to share, the more I need to, sharpen my, sword, so to say. Because if I'm not constantly adding to my knowledge, if I'm not constantly trying to figure this out, what does this mean? So just to give you a simple example, right? So for instance, if someone comes to me and says, should I write a prologue to my to a book? Is it important? Forget should I write. Should a book have a prologue? Now I'd say depends, right? Because that's a safe answer. But and then I'll say I know writers who have prologues in all their books. I'm talking primarily from the speculative fiction side, because their prologues are needed, not always, but are usually needed. Uh, but there are writers who do not have a prologue, so it depends, right? And that's such a safe answer. And I'm telling you something that happened, and then I said, no, yeah, I can't just give such ambiguous cop out answers. So I actually started going through the books that I enjoyed, some with prologues, some without prologues, to see what was the difference that having a prologue made in my experience of the book, and not having a prologue make in my experience of enjoying the book. And doing that, because what was I trying to do? I did not have that itch to know, for whatever reason. I don't know why I did not have that itch, but this person did. And in that process, I started learning so much about when to use a prologue, when not to use a prologue, what's an effective use of it. Not that I've become an expert at it, but at least I know maybe 5% more about when and when not to, compared to, before the question. So that is what I mean. For me, it's a purely selfish motive. The more questions I get asked, the more people come to me asking for help, with writing, the more I learn in the process.
Beautiful. I think that is the best example I can ever give of unconscious competency, where you have a competency, but you're absolutely unaware. And that decoding process starts when you start realizing, oh, it's not a natural thing for others, what is coming naturally to me. And hence, I need to break it down in a simple
Yes.
format for someone else to then make it a conscious competency. So, very beautifully narrated. In this journey, okay, as I see you, I know that you thrive on questions. You thrive on something that takes you out of your comfort zone to go figure it out, find an answer. And there is always that curiosity, that drives you. So any particular project or a story or anything that pops up in your mind where curiosity literally took over for you to figure out something which was incredible. So any story that you would like to share?
In fact, this, the latest example, or the most recent example I can give you, is the podcast that I did, right, on the Bhagavad Gita. Now, I come from I wouldn't say a religious background, but my parents, and my wife, they're all very religious, right? In the sense that they do puja every day, and offer the food to the idol before they eat, and all of that. My parents still fast, Ekadashi and all of that, right? So I come from a religious upbringing. However, and this is not the space for it. We won't get into what happened, but I kind of started to, in my early, uh, I think, 20s, I had kind of started to drift away from the organized religion, so to say. I still thought of myself as spiritual. There's a universe, it's conscious, I can connect with it, but I don't really need anyone in between me and the universe, right? And I don't need to give a name to the universe, kind of thing, right? Again, very intellectual, approach. Uh, 2022 end, I was at a and a friend, both of them again very religious. I just went there because the place seemed very beautiful, right? In the middle of a forest, and nice, peaceful. I said, I'm going to go sit, relax. You guys do whatever puja whatever you want to do. Don't get me involved with that. They said, okay, sure. I go there, and after a day or two, I'm like, okay, I'm like, fine. I want to read something new, find something new. Kya kare? So there was a Bhagavad Gita session that was happening. I said, okay, I would still consider myself an agnostic, right? To the extent that I'm always questioning, the existence of everything. Even after I experience it, I'm still like, maybe did I get deluded? Was it an illusion, right? Uh, and I'm not talking about just this. Even established science, I'll sometimes like, how do they know? Let me find out. So I'll go online and say, okay, how do they know? The universe is this many billion years old. What's the data? Not that it's going to make a difference to me, but I still want to know. Curious, kida. Nothing else. So I'm like, okay, let's see what this is all about. Everyone keeps talking about Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Gita. Dekhte to hai. So I go sit down, pure curiosity, nothing else. I just wanted to know hai kya, and started understanding. Lot of it went above my head. Some of it kind of stuck, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. This is something I could apply to my day-to-day life, even if I am not religious, even if I am not a quote unquote practicing Hindu. uh, I can use it, right? And that was like a wow moment. Like, okay, wow, there's something in here. Log aise nahi bolte. So I started to attend more of those sessions. So they were these daily sessions. So I started attending those. The first one was, as I said, pure curiosity. There's an itch, it got scratched, and I was like, no, I need to know more. And right, I got had a notebook. I started filling it up with whatever thoughts came in, whatever, and I enjoyed the entire engagement. Of course, full marks to this monk, Nirmala Prabhu, who took me through it in a way that engaged me. It was not here's something I'm going to share with you. Chupchap बैठ के सुनो. It was very interactive, right? And it really kind of shifted a lot of things here. So that is what, again, that led to me saying, if I want to understand this better, I need to write about it. So I wrote about it. Then we met up with a couple of friends and said, podcast should probably work better because a lot of people do not read. That turned into podcast. But the point is not that journey. And of course, we did 25 episodes and it was great fun, a lot of learning. But it all started with this curiosity ki hai kya.
True. And I think that is, again, one of the driving factors that you definitely have. Sorin, in so many years, again, you've moved from not only just writing books, but also, content writing to many other aspects that you have done. Today everything is about social media. There's all about storytelling and aspects and brand storytelling and so on and so forth. What is your opinion about a business having a story, or should it really have a story? How important is it? What's your opinion?
Okay. So I'm sorry for this. I'm bad with names, and it's a flaw, which I'm trying to work on. But there is this quote that says the universe is not made out of atoms; it is made out of stories, right? And it kind of just feels right because, of course, the universe is made out of atoms. I hope, but it just feels so right because for me, even before I picked up the Bhagavad Gita, it felt as if the universe is conscious.
Sure.
And there are, it has a thought, and that thought is what manifests. And so there's an entire story that the universe has created and that has manifested. That's the kind of stuff that I used to wonder, maybe, right? So it kind of felt absolutely right that everything that we are and do is because we have stories, right? And yeah, a lot of people with a lot more understanding and a lot more pedigree, a lot more credibility have spoken about stories. So I'm not really going to get into it. There's tons of it available online, right? But with my limited understanding of stories, especially from the business side of it, in terms of whatever work I've done as a writer and whatever I've taught to people interested in business story writing. The reason stories work so well, and especially they work so well for me, is because uh, they have something that facts miss, which is emotion,
Yes.
right? And if I go back into my past, into my childhood, into my youth, the only things I remember are the ones which are loaded with emotions, right? You know, the like for instance, I remember an incident when I was what about 7 or 8. We were in Mathiran with a couple of friends, is my parents, their friends, and uh, one of the other kids, in the group, kind of, maybe would have been 4 or 5 years old, right? Younger than me, and he was glued to my mother, right, all the time, auntie, 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 and I was so furious that how can this kid take my mother away, right, from me? And I poor him, I feel so bad now. I was, 8, 9, but I tortured him, to get him away from it. Now, of the entire trip, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I don't know if I'm ever going to meet him again. I don't even remember who he was, but if you ever, come across this, I'm sorry for what I did then. But that's the only thing I remember of the entire trip. Why? Because of this intense envy, anger that I had, right? And that's all I remember because it was so heavily loaded with emotion. I do not remember anything else of the trip but that, right? And that is how it is for us with almost anything in our life. Anything that has emotions, attached to it, and the more intense they are, the heavier they are, the more likely we are going to remember it. And that's why when we work with stories, whatever it might be for, the moment if we just use a story for the sake of using a story and it's not really loaded with emotions, or we're faking it won't work because people will catch it. But if I dig deep into my life, there is, for everything that I want to share with you, if I want to share with you that I believe in fairness, if I want to share with you that I think of myself and others think of me as creative, if I want to share with you that a lot of times I think uh, I missed the bus, so to say, in my life. And that's what I usually suggest and recommend to people. Don't miss a bus. Uh, what I mean when missing a bus is that if there's an opportunity, take it. Right? Don't overcomplicate and overthink and overanalyze. Should I? Should I not? Let me create a flowchart and just get onto the bus, so to say. Right?
Right.
Things work out. But standing at the bus stop, nothing works out. You have to be on the bus. That's what I mean, right? So for all of these, if I go back into my past, into my life, I have very, 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 very intense experiences that I've had around these. So if I bring that out and I share that and say, this is why I'm saying this, uh, that emotion that's attached to those words, ensures that it stays with them.
Perfect. I think that, so I was about to say that you actually displayed a perfect example of that as well. Like, your podcast, which is primarily based on Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, given a choice, I may skip it, saying ek aur, I don't want to listen to. Okay. But at the same time, now that I know what perspective you went with and why you sat down, why exactly you chose to listen to someone and someone imparted that knowledge to you, which was in a very interactive way. Now it gives me a very solid reason to even go ahead and even click on those episodes and listen to it to understand your perspective. So I think story definitely does have magic,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it sells the concept. I'm not talking about the sale from a money perspective, but if you have a belief as well that you want to impart to the world, but you don't have a story behind where that belief comes from, that
Yes.
conviction or that sale of letting someone else buy that idea wouldn't come if there is no story behind it. I think
No,
that's
no,
where
I
it
agree.
all come from, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, no, you're
Perfect.
right. In fact, the podcast also, we tried to not only keep it 5 to 7 minutes, but we tried to have the same format. I dug into my life. I said, what are the challenges I am facing? So, in fact, the first one was imposter syndrome and authenticity. Right? How I've suffered, with this idea that I'm not, imposter syndrome. I'll get caught. I'm a fake. I'm not as good a writer. Like even today, someone said, that oh, I've been given your name and they say you're a brilliant writer. And the first message I send out was they're being too kind. And the second message I send out was not always. I'm not always brilliant, right? So I constantly, kind of underplay, my abilities. And because I have this feeling that, I'm not really as good as what I think or what others think. And, so that imposter syndrome, right? So I said, okay, is there something in the Bhagavad Gita that can help me with this, right? And there was. And I was like, wow, right? So I said, okay, I'm talking about a challenge. Then I move into the shlok, which my wife has narrated in Sanskrit. Then we do the English translation, and then we move into how this understanding of the Bhagavad Gita I can apply
True.
to help me overcome that challenge, right? So every episode has the same 5 to 7 minute format challenge that I'm facing. I am facing, not the world is facing. I am facing example of it. How, going into the Bhagavad Gita, picking up a shlok, explaining what the shlok means, and how I can use that, and maybe other tools like Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now and many other tools. How can I use those to overcome this challenge? And some action steps that I intend to use or I am using. Simple format, right? Based on my life. That appealed to me because I'm not an expert on the Bhagavad Gita. I'm not an expert on those subjects. The only person I can thing or person I can be an expert on is myself to an extent. So I said, let me just use myself. And that really worked for me, and hopefully it also worked for the audience.
Yes, it definitely did, because I did listen to most of the episodes. So thank you. Thank you for actually creating an amazing series. And now that we have a story to go with it, I'm pretty sure we have created a lot more curious audiences to know what that is. So again, I invite all of you to just click on his podcast as well. The link is there in the caption somewhere above or below, as you may have it on your apps. So, Sorin, as we come to the closing of today's episode, and I think there's so much more that we still haven't spoken about. So maybe we'll just have one more episode again in the future.
Sure.
But for now, as being someone who has, I wouldn't say done it all, but has been there consistently, because that is something that we don't find as much again when it comes to a professional writing world or author world. There is always, I do it by the side, I do it as a hobby. I do it when I can, to someone who religiously is doing it every single day. What are certain, any tip or any suggestion or advice that will just keep someone hanging in there and do it or show up? So anything that you would like to share with our audience today?
Yeah, I can again only share from my experience. Yeah. Uh, the like I'm not 100% certain of this, but I've heard that Andrea Agassi, who was one of the best sports persons of not just his time but ever, did not really enjoy tennis, right? The game, but he realized that he was better at it than most other people. So my point here is that this idea that one must be driven by passion uh, is flawed, because what happens is, if I think that I have to be passionate about my writing, only then will I write, then I wait for that passion to come to me, or I go around looking for, why am I not passionate? Maybe I'm not passionate about this subject, maybe I'll be passionate, and then I'm just jumping from bus bus trying to figure out my passion. Maybe I may never find it. I'm not saying it's not important, but to get stuck waiting for inspiration and passion to fall from the sky onto me, or is something that stops a lot of people, because they are like, but I'm not passionate about it yet. You know what, the writing is, as a great writer said, very easy. You just have to sit at your typewriter or whatever and bleed, which means you have to just do the work, right? So there is nothing else that I can really tell people, and this is from pure experience. The only way I will get better as a writer, the only way I will get successful, whatever success means to me as a writer, is by just sitting in front of my book or laptop and just writing. Okay, is this going to make me a very, very good writer? No. There is a lot more to it, but unless I'm willing to do that, and just sit down and write. If I'm not willing to do that, no amount of courses, no amount of reading, craft books, no amount of conversations, nothing, not even a personal mentoring can help someone who's not willing to put in, the work, right? Do the work. That is the first thing. If I'm doing the work, I will figure out I'm stuck. I'm like, oh, I'm trying and I'm trying. I'm not being able to. That mindfulness has to be there. Okay, I'm trying to, but whatever, no matter how much I try, I'm not being able to move beyond this. Then I know I need to work on this, which means I go to someone, have a conversation. I pick up a book, understand it better. There's tons of information. There's YouTube, there's paid courses, free courses. There's tons of stuff out there that can help you with specific challenges. But in order for that to help you, I must know what that challenge is. And the only way I will know what the challenge is if I'm writing every day. I mean writing every day. It may not be every day for everyone. Might be writing 3 times a week, twice a week, 5 times a week. It depends. But without that, nothing else is going to work.
Loved your honesty, and I'm so glad that you put it out there, especially the statement as well that everything has to be passion driven is flawed because uh, every belief is a limiting belief, and the moment you make that as your driving seat, you automatically are saying the day I'm not feeling passionate, I'm not going to do. It's not actually
Yes.
helping you. You're moving
Yes.
away from your goal, and yet we stick to that more easily rather than, as you said, just show up, sit in front of that laptop, sit in front of that computer, typewriter, whatever it is, and bleed, just write. That's the great way to start. Sorin, once again,
As someone said, writing is not inspiration driven. Writing is habit driven. As in, good writing is not, is not about an idea. You give a very good idea to an average writer, someone who has not enough experience. You give a brilliant idea, they'll, you know, stumble around, maybe not do a great job of it. But if you give a very, 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 very okay idea to a very good writer, they'll be able to, just by sheer persistence, they'll figure out a way to turn that mediocre idea into something brilliant. Right. And that only happens when you are sitting and at it.
writing,
So, yeah,
actually doing the work.
doing
I
the work.
loved your honesty, and I think that is something that we all need at times is a dose. And right at the beginning of the year, as we're going to be launching this episode as well, I'm glad that we started with these conversations because so many people have these to-do list resolutions or whatever you call it, which has I shall launch my book, I will write 12 blogs, I will do this, so much related, or even journaling for that matter. Okay.
Yeah.
And yet, most of us don't fill in those even diaries that we buy for ourselves, or, the schedulers or to do list books that we buy in. And even that amount of writing is not done on regular basis. So I'm happy that, you brought a lot of things to the surface, spoke them just the way they are. And
Just a very quick caveat. It also does not mean that I should not, of course, I should not just, go with the flow. But it also means that sometimes if I'm not able to, I should be okay with it, right? I should not be too hard on myself. The world is hard enough as it is. I should not always be hard on myself. It's important. I have a goal. I have a word count. Okay, I should try and meet that. If I don't do it once, I can give an excuse. So what I do is I write down my daily word count, right? And I give myself a very small minimum. It does not mean I have to stick to that. I can go way above that, but I have to do that much. If I do not do that much, let's say just as an example, 500 words, right? If I do not even do 500 words, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, if I'm not doing that, it means that I'm just deluding myself. Because if I cannot do 500 words in a day, then there's something wrong that is, on here, right? So, but I'm not, if I say I'm going to do 5,000 words a day, it's not practical, right? I'm setting myself up for failure, and then I'll say, I can't do anything, which a lot of people do. They want to write the book and publish it and put it out there and make it a bestseller in 6 months. It doesn't work like that.
6 months, I have 30-day requirement, people. I have people who've called in saying, "Sir, I have an idea. Can I write, publish, and get it to bestseller within 30 days? My birthday is next month." And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, it does need a lot of persistence work, but yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I am so glad to have these conversations again, because what are you setting your goals to? Are they realistic and are they doable? And if you're not doing, are you really paying attention to it, or are you just, snoozing that alarm every single day, which is reminding you of what your goal is? I think it's time to then reevaluate your goals once again as well.
Yes,
So, yes, thank you. We have a lot more to talk about, and we will be reconnecting and bringing in Sorin one more time
absolutely.
on a conversation. However, thank you so much, Sorin, today for your time,
My pleasure. Thank you.
everything being just the way you are. There's transparency, there is practicality, and at the same time, there is an experience that speaks a lot for itself. So thank you for sharing it. Guys, the books written by Sorin, all the links, everything, how to connect with him, whether it is on Instagram or whether it is on his Amazon page, all of the details are already added. Feel free to connect, buy the book, share your feedback, let us know how you felt. And yes, we would be very happy, because trust me, as an author, as a writer, we love when someone just even tells us how they felt, okay, whatever it is. So do that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have an amazing year. Anything you want to say, sorry, to our audience before I close?
I thank you so much. This was good. This was great fun. I always have, I love fantasy, so I always have elephant size butterflies in my stomach before any session like this. Even when whether I'm addressing a crowd of thousand or I'm doing a podcast, I'm always nervous. But honestly, this was one of the few times where the way you've kind of just put me at ease, and the way we've conversed, it did not seem like I'm doing a podcast or anything. It felt like I'm just talking to a friend, and we've not really known each other for that long, right? But it just felt so nice and comfortable. So you're an amazing host, and thank you so much, and uh, stay that way. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, guys. Remember that we all are born abundant. All we need to do is take that one step to claim our abundance. I hope you're doing that this year. Thank you so much. I'll see you very soon with our next episode.